Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Flatirons Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. This show is brought to you by Flatirons Tuning, your source for any aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts. Be sure to check out our store at flatironstuning.com and stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning. All right, let's dive into it. Welcome back, everybody, to the Flatirons Syndicate Podcast. We're here in the shop. It is now, a week and a half post Pikes Peak Hill Climb, and we've got in the shop with us our driver, Scott Crouch, and Viet, who was on site for most of the week for the hill climb, and had a huge hand in prepping the car and getting everything ready for this race. And so I want to just kind of, since we have you here, Scott, just kind of talk through how everything went for you. I mean, you weren't able to run last year, so 2 years ago, so 2022 was the last time you'd run the race, and development on the car was going well, and you were having good times during practice, but then this is when all the weather came in. So for you, in part, like getting back on the mountain, was it to try and kind of pick up where you left off 2 years ago, where weather kind of stopped you from getting any kind of a result, or?
I mean, it's interesting because usually it's the weather that kind of comes in on race day and throws all your plans out the window because you've raced during the week in good weather. Now it kind of flipped. We had great weather on race day, but overall, the fact that we didn't get to run the top of the mountain in practice was a little concerning because that's high speed, very bumpy. And this year, the one run we got in, I didn't have a chance to really practice lines and figure out the smoothest way to go up that section of the road. But ultimately, Sunday turned out quite well.
Sure. So. That top section, to anybody that watched the live broadcast, they had a camera right there at the finish line, and so they can see the car coming right over and getting the checkered flag. But this year, many cars were like sending sparks. You could see, like, there's a couple cars that they seemed like they got thrown.
Well, there was a little Starlet,
yeah,
driven by a Japanese gentleman, and I was standing at the finish line for a while watching cars finish, and I think the complete car was airborne sideways,
yeah,
and then hit, and I'm thinking, if that thing launches the wrong way, it could be pretty ugly. But he grabbed it in time.
Was it rough like that for big stretches of the top section?
Yeah, the first frost heave that's concerning is at the bottom of Bottomless Pit. That was similar to the prior year that I ran, and then Boulder Park is always very bumpy, and it was probably bumpier this year. The Subaru just handles that stuff so well. If you watch us go through the finish line where it's super bumpy, the car is just it's stable, and
that rally heritage kind of like pays off in that top section.
And once you get into those bumps and realize, hey, the car's okay, it's you're able to push a little more, and I think my times reflected that.
Yeah, you actually, there was, I think the 2 or 3 cars that were had times right below you, where you had beat them was on the top section.
Yeah.
Like
thankfully.
Yeah.
Well, because I was slow in the bottom section, which I think there was a gear selection mistake, got offline. That probably cost me some time. Because that's my favorite section. I'm most comfortable.
Yeah. Well, so to the mountain. I mean, do you think of the mountain in like 3 different parts? I mean, because it really does seem to have different personalities: bottom section, middle section, top section. Is that how you kind of think of it?
Just because that's how practice is broken up, and that's I've done it so many years. That's just kind of what's in my brain.
Sure.
Bottom, middle, and top.
How different does it get from one year to the next? Is the top section the biggest one that changes, or can other parts of the course change?
If you're talking about stable weather, the top is the section that typically changes the most, just because it's the weather up there changes on a minute by minute basis, really, as the weather comes in. So other than that, I mean, it's the thing that changes is the weather itself.
Sure. So Scott, and if people are listening, you can go to our blog page, and we put together a list of all the Subarus that have run on Pikes Peak and all the times.
You left out Todd Moberly, though.
I saw something about that. I've got to figure out what year he ran.
It would have been back with Rally America. And I know one year he crashed before the actual race, so he couldn't run the hill climb.
And I think that the suspicion was he did like an 11:30 on dirt or something like that.
Yeah.
which is a fast hunt.
Yeah.
And because they're all organized by time, you got to look at the year.
Yeah.
So remember, I think 2012 was the first year it was paved.
Because that was my first year as a driver.
Yeah. So any year before that, if you see times that are close to the top, well, I was on dirt. So like that's all the more
Yeah, I
impressive.
don't remember what Tanner did, but I know his time was pretty impressive.
Go back there. Well, I don't think that was in the Subaru though.
Well, with me in the car.
With you in the car. Yeah. One of them was a 35-minute, which I'm gonna have to ask you about. But but the point that I wanted to make here is that your name, you have run a Subaru up the Pikes Peak Hill Climb more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Not necessarily more than any other driver, but in a Subaru you definitely have. How much do you rely on that experience every new year as you're coming into the race?
Quite a bit. I mean, fortunately, I've been in the same car for every year but one.
Sure.
And we just keep improving it, and I just get more comfortable with it.
How, like, can you think back to maybe the first year or two that you drove up the hill on, basically because you did it with Tanner the first times it was a co-driver, and then the first time that you drove there. How jarring of an experience was the race because 3 different sections and all the complications there?
Well, one of the stages started down below. This wasn't the night stage. My memory's fuzzy, but we had written our own notes, and there were notes that I'd gotten from somebody else, and we didn't do recce. And my notes ran out about at the start line, which I thought was the finish line. And Tanner's like, "Next." That's all I have, Tanner. That's all I have.
Oh, no.
So he's yelling at me, driving, racing, and that's when we went off at engineers. He overcooked it, and we didn't roll. We just went off and kind of landed in the ditch. And I looked out my windows once we stopped, and there's another Subaru further off the road, and it was Pastrana, and he'd gone off too, but he'd rolled and landed back on his wheels.
Oh. This was 2004? I
think it was just 2004, yeah.
Because that would be the 35.
That's probably why Tanner, he never let me live that one down. I kept telling him, just drive the road, and he was still screaming at me to figure it out. I'm like, I don't have any notes. What am I supposed to do?
Oh, man. Well, it's part of the dynamics when you've got a driver and a co-driver.
And that was the year that Libby actually went up on the mountain and was up near Devil's Playground waiting for us.
Oh, no.
And when we didn't show up, she spent 2 hours just freaking out.
Right. Libby being your wife.
Yes.
That's, yeah. As a partner, that would be a challenging spot to be in.
So needless to say, she doesn't. She actually came out this year, but she doesn't go up on the mountain.
Yeah. If you had to because you were actually one of the mentors on the mountain this year.
I was, yeah. I didn't have a lot of feedback, but
yeah. Well,
because the other mentors are, David Donahue and
sure. Well, but you've driven the Subaru up there a bunch.
Yeah.
If you had to get if somebody is a first timer, especially maybe even driving a Subaru like Zachary Sober, he was driving a Subaru this year and it was his first time out. What advice would you give them? What is top of your mind if you're going to come into this race for the first time that you'd want to make sure that somebody would do?
Just overall, the whole event and everything, just realize that the mountain kind of runs its own program and be very patient and expect anything and don't overdrive the road and know the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Expect anything. Yeah. I think that's usually when you're racing and you're on a closed course, you kind of figure all right, this is a repeatable environment, and Pikes Peak does not.
It's not. We've hit hay bales. I've taken out marmots. You'll start a section in practice, and they'll let you know that there's bighorn sheep. There were bighorn sheep on the summit this year.
Yeah.
And those things could have been down on the road.
Sure.
And you saw I think it was Jimmy Ford coming out of one of the W's. Flock of birds.
Yeah.
Big birds.
Yep. I remember multiple times in the driver briefing in practice sometimes that, there's wild turkey sightings. There could be turkeys on the road, and if you guys haven't seen a wild turkey, they can actually get kind of big. You would definitely not want to hit one.
Yeah, I have a picture of a couple that are near my house.
Yep.
And they're big.
Believe it or not, there was actually one on top of the rally truck a couple of days ago.
Oh, was there?
We apparently have wild turkeys even right here. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because every year at the drivers meeting, and I just think about these guys that have never really done this type of circuit racing, and when they talk about, well, watch out for elk, bear, it's just
Yeah,
so appropriate for
yeah,
the environment. But it's, what are we doing up here?
yeah. You can see like maybe some of these guys like a Romain Dumas, somebody that comes in, or like Danny
Yeah.
Sordo for the first time, like, what are we doing? What's
Yeah.
going on here? Is
Yeah.
this really
Yeah,
like
exactly.
the
This is a
norm?
joke. There's no animals up there.
Well, just wait.
And the other thing that's when you talk about the wind and all the other things that come into play, dust has taken a lot of people out,
Yeah.
and with the melting and thawing, you'll get rocks coming down. The road might be clear for me, and then as
Yeah.
I go by a
Like
section,
falling rock.
falling rock.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been, knock on wood, we've been super lucky in
Yeah.
terms of everything, and we finished every year,
Yeah.
which is
All,
quite a testament.
which is
I'm not driving fast enough.
13
Yeah.
years. 13 years at this point.
Yeah.
13 runs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a huge accomplishment. There's many people where it takes multiple years just to get to the summit.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember Andy Kingsley. I think it took him 3 or 4 attempts just to get to the top.
Yeah.
Because all sorts of things happened, weather and mechanical issues, all that sort of thing. I mean, it's a weird race, and that like think about an equivalent to the Nürburgring. It's about the same length, about the same amount of corners, but
Right.
like how many attempts does it take you to get around the Nürburgring? Like 3, 4 times? I don't know if I'd be going back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, stay away from that.
Right.
Well, so to that end, so Viet, you were up with the car for the whole week,
Mhm.
and you worked a lot to get the car ready, and you were up there for the whole week. I think you've been up there maybe in a more supporting role for a race week before, but this was definitely the first time you were really in the middle of it for the entire week, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
What are some of your takeaways from that experience?
Wow. Even though you think you're ready for the race, you're never really ready for the race. Like going back to what you said, expect anything. Like you might have the car ready for like here, this elevation, but once you start running through the paces, like that amount takes a toll on cars, and things can drastically just happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the big challenge is you're running all week, but you're only running a third of the mountain,
Yeah.
and then you're not creating the same environment really.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
And, like,
then Sunday comes, and it's now you're doing 12 miles,
And it's
Yeah.
it's
and it was
middle
super
of the
warm
day.
this year.
Yeah.
I mean, sitting at the start line before I took off, I was overheating. I'm like, this. Should I have a cool suit?
You yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was starting to drip sweat, and I'm like, this could get really ugly. I mean, altitude and overheating.
Yeah.
Once up to speed, I mean, it was fine, but
Yeah. It is just the conditions. Just the conditions alone of the race are challenging for driver and crew. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
you have to remember, oh, well, yeah, we're running a car through this too.
well, look at Jeff Sward. I mean,
Yeah.
at the start line, he goes off.
Yeah.
And he's had
He's
how
the
many
most
years?
experienced
Yeah.
guy in the mountain.
Yeah.
And he
19 years?
every year he's driven a Porsche, so I don't know the complete circumstances,
knows?
but yeah.
Yeah.
But stuff like that can happen. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
like you said, be ready for the unknown. I mean, weird things just seem to happen on that mountain,
Yeah.
not infrequently,
Right.
and for who knows what reason.
And I look back historically in practice, I've spun on every section of the mountain, and I'm glad I did, because I mean I didn't hurt the car, didn't hurt myself, but now I know those areas that might be, dusty or slick,
Right.
so I'm always careful when I go through those.
Sure.
sections.
Yeah, just another place where it's one of these races where you kind of have to plan that it might take 2, 3, 4 attempts to really get everything to fall into place and get to the point where your comfort level is enough where you can actually really drive and
Right.
set the time that you want to do up the mountain, because there are just so many of those changes. And that's I've seen that there's a lot of guys that come in and you see them 1 year and then they're gone and they're never back.
Right.
And I'm sure that is a part of it, because it's just you'd think like it's basically a lap, a single run. How hard could it be? Turns out, pretty hard. Viet, just from your perspective, we've kind of let people know some of the challenges that we had for the
Yeah.
race week, but maybe like take us through a little bit of practice in the race week itself. Like give us a sense of some of the challenges that you guys worked through. I mean, the engine being the obvious one. But...
Yeah. So the other thing was keeping like tire temps. Like during race day, it's easy to keep it warm because you're down low. And surprisingly, this year it was warm. It was not like raining or cold. It was totally opposite on practice days. During the practice, it was really, really cold. Like early in the morning, really cold. You can't get temps in the tires because you've got like only a handful of runs, right? And you can't maintain the heat in there, so you can't get a good accurate reading. And also give the driver the best amount of grip. So like he's kind of like dealing with half as amount of grip, so he doesn't know how fast he can go, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, in our practice, my first practice run on the middle section at Glen Cove, first corner is a pretty tight hairpin, and tires felt good. We had them on the warmers, so they were somewhat up to temperature.
Yeah.
And then came into Cove Creek, which is a big sweeping left-hander before you head up to Elk Park, and it tightens at the end. And I usually shift from fourth to third at that where it tightens. And I downshifted, hit the accelerator, and that car went sideways on me.
Oof.
And it got my attention. I mean, I'm obviously I'm somewhat comfortable in a slide,
Yeah.
and I just let it kind of slide, and then it caught, and it wanted to go the other direction, but I caught it. But tires weren't up to temp.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that'll wake you up.
Yeah, it did wake me up.
Yes. Jeez.
So like with that being said, like your practice sessions are not going to reflect race day at all.
Yeah.
Ever. Like,
Yeah, what was the temperature at
like,
Devil's Playground when
my
they canceled on me? It was like 33 with wind.
Yeah.
That was without the wind chill.
And then
Oh yeah.
the amount of like fog, like your visibility was really
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the girl in the open wheel car, I can't remember her name, but she was they took the rookies have to make a practice run, or they don't get to run on Sunday. So they
Okay.
just let one of the stewards in a truck take them up the mountain. And she
for the
kinda-
top section.
Yeah, for the
Okay.
top section. This was the day we were
Oh,
up there
yeah,
and canceled
yeah, yeah.
everything. And she kind of hung back, and her visibility dropped to nothing. She was like
Whoa.
lost on the mountain for a while.
And that is not where you want to be lost.
No, and talk about
Oh.
a bad experience before race day. God.
Man, and open wheel car probably doesn't have any kind of lighting at
No,
all.
that was the problem too.
So like if you have
And there was
zero
sleet. Yeah,
yeah, if you have
It's
no
just-
visibility, like I think you're parked.
Yeah,
Like if you can't
yeah.
see, you just stop.
right.
Because there are cliffs. Like
Yeah.
yeah. Boy. Yeah, and again, like just the unique environment from a driving standpoint. Yeah, getting temperature in the tires, that was a big challenge this year.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes sense. We've resisted getting warmers in the past because it just didn't seem like it was that big of an issue. But we ran into this issue even in testing. So it was such an issue there. We realized, all right, we've got to do something to kind of warm the tires up, at least give you a fighting chance to have some grip out of the tires from the word go. And a lot of people up there use them and definitely saw why this year. I think it did make a bit of a difference.
It did. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's just such a trying to replicate a race where you have like no chance to replicate the conditions that you will actually be racing in. It's like practicing the whole week in sleet and rain, and then it's bright, sunny, and clear on race day. Like how much can you really take from
Right,
practicing those
right.
conditions and apply it to race day?
Yeah.
Not much. That's where the experience comes in.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
It was interesting how many people in their post-race interviews were talking about having overheating issues of the car, overheating of the tires this year because it was so bright and warm and clear.
Yeah, the general conversation on the summit was how slimy it was with the heat. But I thought our tires performed very well. It felt great.
That's good.
Yeah.
That definitely helps.
Yeah.
Get you to the place that you did.
Right.
What do you think? So Scott, you set your personal best time this year, 10 minutes 46 seconds. You took 10 seconds off your time. From one year to the next, how much are you kind of thinking of a goal of what you want to try and improve, or is that even a part of it?
I mean, it's always in the back of my mind, but I mean, I just love the event in general and all the people involved in it and the assortment of drivers that come. And ideally, my goal every year is just to make it to the top. But
That's a good
once
goal.
you start improving, yeah,
Yeah.
safe and alive and
Yeah.
in one piece.
Yeah.
But as the car gets better, and this year, I mean, it just feeds the fire that you want to come back and improve on what you've done. I mean, I'd love to get in, the mid to mid not nines, but tens.
No,
Um,
you said
I think he
nines.
said nines.
No more.
You
No,
said
nines.
nines.
I was thinking about that coming over here.
Hold you.
I would. It'd be cool to be the fastest Subaru up there, but
So close.
So we're
and,
close
and I
to
think
10
it's
seconds
totally
away?
attainable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 16. Because I still count the Scions. So 10:30.
oh, okay.
Fastest STI
Okay.
is 10 seconds away.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to add 10 seconds, what?
What's
16,
another-
What's another 6? Though on this mountain,
What's another
like-
6?
on this mountain, 10 seconds to 16 seconds, I mean, that can be
That's a lot.
a lot.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts of some of the different cars that have come up? This year seemed to be one of the more diverse years.
It
Where you
really
had
was, yeah.
a lot of different. I mean, you've got trucks now, which is
And you were talking about your Tesla, and I watched the Rivian truck take off. It just still amazes me how quick that thing was.
yeah. Well, in Hyundai to come in out of
Yeah.
nowhere,
Yeah, and those
And
cars
him.
were super impressive too.
Yeah. it's. I still say electric on the mountain is cheating. Like, it takes away so much of the aspect of the elevation and the lack of oxygen
Yeah.
and all of that. But I mean, it is an impressive proving ground for the technology.
Right.
It's really interesting to see how they've progressed, what the different iterations have been. Like Tajima, he was one of the first to bring an electric car to the event.
Yeah. And what year was that? It goes way back, doesn't it?
At least, I want to say every year in the modern times, like 2012 and on, that we've run, when he was there, it was an electric car. So then he had 2 different iterations of it.
Yeah, that's
It was
right.
always electric. He was never able to get it. I think because of the battery technology. I think he was
Yeah.
such an early adopter that the battery technology, that the pace was there, but it was too heavy, or maybe they couldn't run it, full pace for the whole
Right.
climb. But I mean, he's had been racing up there for so long, and he knew what the potential was, and it'd be interesting to see what his thoughts are now that like electric cars are becoming so dominant.
Yeah.
Because like Romain Dumas. I mean, there had to be some discussion on the top. So you got Romain Dumas goes off, starts his run, the car just turns off for 20 seconds, and he still wins the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just bananas,
It's crazy.
right? I mean, and granted, that car was like super, super fast.
Yeah.
Like the development, the technology that Ford put into that vehicle, from what it sounds like, is just on a completely other level.
Yeah.
But like to be able to do that is nuts.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, just to watch that thing was so fast.
Would you have any interest in driving an electric car, or is it something where just the development of the car that you have right now and that experience is just something that
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
enough?
asking me that question now, I would say no. I mean, that could change, but
Yeah, well, Subaru's coming out with electric STI.
that's right.
You need to start twisting some arms, Scott. Subaru, for all the people at Subaru that are listening.
Yeah, they.
Most experienced Subaru driver on the mountain.
Yeah.
A steady set of hands. to
My
test out
phone
the
hasn't
new
been
car.
ringing.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Well, it's unlisted. We're not going to post it here. Yeah. What are some of your thoughts for like the cars that were up there this year, the drivers that were up there this year, just the race in general? What were some of your takeaways, or what surprised you?
There's a lot of Porsches. But besides that, there was a good like mix between like open wheel, like Sierra cars, Porsches, Audis, and whatever, BMWs. And I don't know. It's cool to see all that kind of stuff. It felt like the field was a little smaller this year, but
I think it was. I think there was
it?
only 62 cars, something like that.
I think 65,
65
were accepted in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think that is smaller than last year. I think last year was about 80.
Like 2 years. Well, the last time we were up there, it felt massive.
Yeah.
And then they brought out like the older cars, like the Villains, like
Yep.
the Pennzoil.
But
truck and stuff like
I'm
that.
not sure how it worked out, but I mean, I think the amount of entries was good, and I mean, I've heard people that were turned down. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
interesting that maybe they just thought they needed less cars on the mountain.
What was really interesting to me, looking at all of the times, is that short of there was one guy who was driving the R32 that ran out of fuel, like I guess like one turn or two turns from the finish line. So his time was I think 15 minutes,
Oh yeah.
or something like that, because
Yeah.
like the car literally just ran out of gas. I don't think he had to like push it across the finish line, but he like
Yeah.
that stumble start
Exactly.
across. But short of that, I think the times were, I mean, you had the winning time, which was 8 minutes and 40 seconds, something like that.
Yeah.
But then to 13 minutes. It was one of the tightest
Yeah.
groupings of
competitive.
times. Now,
Yeah.
weather didn't come in, which, I mean, how often can you say
Yeah.
that in the race? But it's like, it seems like they were picking cars that all kind of fit within a much tighter grouping of potential times versus, a lot of the years you see a lot more times in the 15 plus minute range.
Yeah, and 2 years ago when we had poor visibility on the middle and top section, it was so random. Some people had a clean run, other cars didn't. So,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, there's a lot of diversity in the times.
Yeah. There's a lot of diversity in cars, but it seems like the overall what they picked, the overall driver and car packages, it seems like the times are a lot better matched this year than
Mhm.
ever before, which made it kind of a tighter competition really for everybody that was running. Which, again, like to have everything come into place and be able to rely on that experience for us this year the timing was right.
It was, yeah.
Which is very cool. Viet, if you had to pick any car that you saw run this year to drive up, which one would you want to drive? And I'm going to say,
Which one would I want to drive?
Yes.
Oh man.
not our car, but like just because that would be the obvious choice. But other than our car,
Oh, man.
what else up there kind of impressed you, and would you want to like get behind the wheel of?
The S2000 was pretty cool. The one that was like parked next to us.
Yeah.
Project Imports
Yeah,
with
the Project Imports.
Brett Dickey driving.
That's Brett Dickey, yeah.
Yeah.
And he really
I'm-
improved his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jon Bassett, who was typically not super fast, but he had issues, and he made it around the final corner and pulled off. But he was quick in practice all
Yeah.
week.
He was setting good sector times, I think, until the fourth sector. I think
Yeah.
maybe the bumpy top sector, something caused an issue. Yeah. That's Sean Bassett is the carbon fiber 240Z.
Yeah.
Yep. Besides that car, I would probably Zort's car was pretty cool, but
Yeah. Well, who knows what happened?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yes, I mean that was a mid 90s 911. Was it 96
yeah,
or something like that?
with like all GT2 stuff under it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, total hybrid Frankenstein.
yeah. Scott, how about you? If you had to get behind the wheel of any other car other than your own, was there anything that you would like? That would be the one I'd want to try.
It would be a Porsche.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lonnie Unser's Porsche would be
Yeah.
might be too much car for me, but
That's a lot of cars.
it's a lot of car. But one of the GT4 cars.
Sure.
Yeah.
What do you think of? Because it was really interesting to see a GT4 class versus a specific Porsche GT4 Cayman class.
Right.
I really like that they opened up to let all those other GT4 cars in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be really
And they
interesting.
definitely want to
see.
try to grow that. And then there's some discussion of a Subaru class, and then the NASCAR type.
Mhm.
Fred Veach, the chairman of the board, he and I were talking about, what the future holds. That was
So-
part of the conversation.
The NASCAR, that's kind of what Jimmy Ford drove.
Yeah,
Was
that
which-
Ford was very impressive.
surprisingly fast. I mean, you would not think of a NASCAR as being able to do
Right.
well in that environment. There've been a few people in the past that have run.
Well, Tommy Boy Lowe ran.
Yeah, there's some other guy that ran one for a couple of years, and their name is escaping me. But and they always worked okay,
Right.
but it just never seemed like it was really the platform that you would pick for this environment.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Jimmy Ford goes and does what he did, and like, okay, well, maybe, yeah,
Yeah.
bring a couple more of those out, see what would happen. Was there some talk of it's that's one of the interesting things with Pikes Peak. It's like it's kind of a run what you brung race.
Right.
So what, you know, as long as you've got the car that meets all the safety requirements and is built to, you know, a class rule that is a lot of them pretty broad.
It's
Like unlimited is well, it's pretty unlimited.
And I know for a lot of competitors, the whole classification thing is frustrating, but
Sure.
I think that's secondary to the race itself.
Yeah. Well, it's that I think is one of the things that's more interesting from like a grassroots grassroots standpoint, because if you have a car that you're building, whatever car and platform you want to build, it just has to meet kind of these relatively loose set of requirements, largely based on safety,
Right.
and then you can run it in the class that you want to run. Versus like if it's a Subaru class, well then you're kind of narrowed down into a pretty specific group of cars, or like when it was the Cayman GT4, it's one car. This
Right.
is your choice. So it makes it more of maybe a driver's competition, but you don't get to
Right.
like come up with some ideas, throw some things at the chassis and see what makes it work, and try things out as much. I don't know. Do you think that's more of a driver-specific competition? Is like there's room for that up there, or it seems like a lot of the race is built on, you know, people coming up with ideas and trying.
Yeah, and
things out.
you don't want to stifle that. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
It seems like that's like a key part of the
Yeah,
race.
and that's every year you wait for the entry list to come out. That's me. I'm looking at every car and googling what's this thing, and it's just it's what's so cool about the event.
Yeah.
What people bring out there.
Yeah, like the Corcus.
Yeah.
I know it had issues, but
Was that the one from the UK?
no, it's from France, I think.
From France. Okay. There's some car from.
I think
the
it was an
UK.
Alpine underneath, but
Okay.
pretty crazy body on it.
There's that one from the UK that was like a Lotus 7 based car, but like modified. I remember the first time when the Palatovs came in, because you get the entry list and it says what the car is, and like Palotov, like what is that?
Right.
Like there's at least 3 or 4 cars every year on the entry list. You're like, I don't know what
Never
that
heard
is.
of that. Right.
Like Pikes Peak Special, like we'll just have to see when we get on the mountain.
Well, the guy from the UK, and his car is named after him. I can't remember. It was the lime green open wheel.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like a
forget what-
crossbow. I mean, it was kind of funky, but he
Yeah.
was fast.
Yeah, and that's those are the things I think that are like there's room for classes, but builds like that where it's like somebody in the UK, I mean, for crying out loud, that
Yeah.
has been watching this race and building this car, and like this is what I'm going to do with it. Like
Yeah.
we need that always has to be a part of the race, I think. So Scott, looking to next year, what are kind of like some of the key things that you would want, or maybe key expectations or goals that you have for next year?
Just leading up to, I've had so much fun in the car with the current build.
Mhm.
I definitely want to get more track time and more seat time in it.
Yeah.
Because I was comfortable with the car, but I made some mistakes and was hesitant on what gear I should be in, and still didn't nail that.
And to that, I should have mentioned this earlier. So this year was the first year driving the car with Sequential. So the engine package was basically unchanged, like as far as turbo, power, all of that. But the Sequential was the addition. How much of a learning curve was there? How different was it to drive the car with that transmission?
I mean, I think I got pretty quickly up to a certain level, and then it's just that little piece left to really truly dial it in, but it wasn't too tough.
It definitely seemed like, well, and there was a lot involved with getting it in the car, getting the tune set up, like figuring out like the nuts and bolts setup for it. We did get you on track before testing, so you had one track day, and then the testing days that we did with it. When in there, would you say that you felt relatively comfortable with the car, or was it like really towards the end of the race week?
Probably towards the end of the race week. The qualifying run when we finally got a chance to put the slicks on and we got the tire warmers when we had the coolant pop and spray the windshield.
Yeah.
That's when I really felt like I kind of got comfortable, because my sector time before we broke was 5 seconds faster than my race day sector. So.
Right. So it's like right when everything
I know
starts to work,
everything's starting to work, and
the car's like, hold on now.
I think it was Gilly's corner, and I got on the accelerator, and then poof,
Oh,
I was like, God damn it! But the fact that the car, what we did with the car, and all the changes, it's a testament to Viet and all the guys here. That, I felt confident the car was good.
Yeah, the whole crew. I mean, it's an amazing effort and an amazing result for sure. Viet, you looking forward to next year? What are some of your top like thoughts, wants?
Be the fastest Subaru.
Okay,
That's
for sure.
That's the goal for me, and just to make it up top and have a good clean run.
Yeah, I think for this shop, being like that's the goal is to be the fastest Subaru.
Yeah.
To try and keep building the car to that direction. Yeah. What are some of the takeaways from everything this year in running and what you've seen in past? Like what are some of the top things you can think of that we could or should do to help make next year better, go smoother, that sort of thing?
Man, I don't think you can ever prepare for like this, but I think previous years prior to this we had a better aero package. But besides that, we got wider wheels this year, wider tires.
That seemed to make a difference.
Yeah.
And the tire warmers seemed to make a difference.
Warmers, yep. And then the sequential, those were big steps. I mean, like we got 10 seconds off from our best time, so it was huge. But hopefully no more engine problems. Whatever that means. Whatever steps we have to do to like kind of contain that so it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's kind
of the really interesting thing for us, and I don't know if we've talked to you about this, Scott, but is the data. So like now having the standalone to collect all of the data. So we the whole race run, we have all of the data
But
collected.
yeah, and we really haven't talked about it, but it's pretty mind-boggling all all the information you can pull off of that.
It is, and like that, I think for us is the crew is going to be a huge tool.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have the data from practice plus the race run. We can compare those. We have data from the first engine and the second engine. We can compare that. And I think there's some telltale signs that we can use to say like, okay, well, this is where the problem started, or this is the indicator that the problem is starting. So that hopefully we can have a package that is reliable, but if we start to have an issue, we can get in there and intervene before the car has to like get your attention by spraying coolant all over the windscreen.
Well, I mean, luckily that happened, and we were able to see the spike in like the coolant pressure.
Yeah.
Before anything catastrophic really happened.
Yeah.
So we're probably able to like save that engine there.
Yeah.
So,
I think what's interesting is from a crew standpoint, performance, sure. You want to give the driver the best and the quickest package possible, but reliability is it almost trumps that because there are so many variables. Like we're definitely aware that we've had a lot of discussions about giving you a car that is predictable handling wise, consistent power wise, so that you can just go out there and practice and get comfortable and figure out what mood the mountain is in this year, so you can go and have a good run, versus like just being on that ragged edge, so that maybe you get like a good glimpse of what the car can do in practice, but just once, and then it never kind of comes together again. And then can you grab that lightning in a bottle on the race run or not?
Right.
And that's been kind of our challenge as we've tried to work through the car, is just finding that reliability so that you can actually get the seat time and actually practice.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the mistakes from what I've seen some of the guys make, is they just throw everything at the wall to try and go for that ragged edge. If everything falls into place, this car will be, I'll win my class. But then you can't hold that together for the whole race week.
Yeah.
And then just nothing come race day.
Yep. hopefully next year we can do like a little repeat, but without the engine swap.
Yes, for sure. Well, and our plan
Well, it
is
gives you
just
something to do, right?
Yeah,
There's a lot of
I
time.
guess so.
there's all that. I mean, race practice is just a couple hours in the morning. This fills up the time between those couple
Yeah.
hours in the morning. So you're not
Right.
just sitting there
It's probably the most
relaxing.
stressful part of the whole race is the week before.
Oh,
all
yeah.
the downtime.
Yeah.
What do you do? Well, you can blow the motor up and
Have some fun.
yeah, right.
Yeah. You
Keep
never
us on our toes.
you never want to make other plans during race week.
Right.
It's like you're doing. It's not like you're not seeing a movie. You're not trying to meet friends. It's just like whatever it is. Like this is it because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. All right. So as we're winding down, let's make some predictions. Just off the top of your head. I'm not going to hold you to it, unless it's that 9 minute and 30-second run. That I will hold you to. But if you had to guess,
10 minutes.
10 minutes, 10:30. No. What do you think your time's going to be next year?
That's too hard to answer.
Just a goal.
I'd like to shave another 11 seconds.
Okay. All right. So from
Let's do
46 to 35.
We're gonna do it.
I like that.
We'll do it.
Viet, what do you think we're
I'm
going to
on that boat. 11 seconds.
11 seconds?
Yeah. I think it's very possible.
Well, that car can do.
Very possible.
I'd love to put a real driver in that car and see what they can do.
You are the real driver.
You are the real driver.
Well,
Scott, you were faster than a lot of people up there.
yeah.
Like you give yourself credit. You put it all together.
Yeah. No, I'm happy with the result for sure.
There's always going to be some time left. I think this is one of those races you cannot have a perfect whatever. It's 156 corners. It's
Right.
12
There's
miles.
a
You
lot to be done
cannot
up there. Yeah.
do that perfect.
Yeah.
So it's really like it's an average. You're shooting for the average. And
Yeah.
again, you had an amazing run. I'm going to say 10 minutes and 16 seconds.
16, 20 seconds.
20 seconds. I think between everything that we learned this year and our plan of getting, going to some other events, getting more and more familiar with the car, and really like that's part of the plan is not to change a lot.
Right.
Because there were so much changes that were made to the car. I think if we get you more comfortable with the car and we can figure out a couple of these little things we're talking about for the engine, I think 20 seconds is doable.
Is it 20 seconds or 30 seconds? What was our time?
10:46. Oh, sorry,
it's
that's 30 seconds.
That is 30 seconds.
Hold on.
Wow. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Nope, I said it.
He
I'm gonna
said
stick
it,
with
he
it.
said it,
I
all
said
right.
it.
All right.
That's my prediction. 10 minutes, 16 seconds.
All right.
It would be
Wow.
definitely would be the fastest Subaru by far, and we'd really be taking the fight to the Porsches. And I'll tell you, there were some fast Subarus on the mountain this year. Zach Sober put down for being a rookie, fantastic time. And then the
He had
mechanic,
mechanical issues. So
Yeah.
he got hot.
which we've been there.
Right.
We were there a couple days
Not
before.
this
in
time,
fact.
though.
Not this time.
No.
This
Yeah.
time, it
That
was.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a little
held
concerned
together.
at the start line, but when we got past the W's, like we're fine.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So that's a huge confidence booster that some of the
Yeah.
changes that we've made, like with oil cooler and the water
Right.
sprayers and stuff,
Mhm.
it's starting to work. So that's where we can continue to refine. Kendall Samuel, I know he had a heck of a week. He went through, I think, 2 engines.
Yeah, I
It's tough.
can't imagine the schedule.
Yeah, I mean, but the cool thing was that there was 4 Subarus up there, and it would be
Yeah.
great to see more Subarus up there.
Yeah,
We need all the reinforcements that we can get to take the fight to the Porsches.
right.
So. So if there's anybody else that wants to run a Subaru, like we've proven you can do it, like a lot of these other people have proven that it can be done for sure. It'd be great to see more Subarus up there on the mountain.
Yeah,
I think we should twist Victor's arm. Maybe see if we can get him back.
we were
on.
talking before the race. He's kind of busy running his new deal, right?
That is true.
Yeah.
But I don't think you'd have to twist his arm too much to get him to bring his car
Yeah.
back. And I'm sure that there's a handful of people I've talked to people with Subarus that this is their bucket list event.
Yeah.
Maybe next year get your package together and yeah, let's take the fight to those Porsches.
I mean, RCM was supposed to be up there, but
Yes.
unfortunately they had some issues with their car.
Yes.
So
Well, and
Who's that?
Roger Clark,
Oh, yeah,
the Gobstopper.
right.
I know that they want to run it up here. So like hopefully next year we get to see them up there.
Yeah.
That will be fun. they're not going to be in our class. We can still be the fastest Subaru in Time Attack 1. I think if the guy from Subaru shows up...
I know, if he shows up, that's kind of a bittersweet thing.
Yeah, that would be a hard one.
That car, yeah.
Maybe I'll talk to the guys. Can you put it off one more year?
Yeah.
Like, give us that one shot. Nah, it'll be good. If they make it, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's all good for the brand.
Yeah, exactly. Give those Porsches what for.
Yeah.
So, very good. Well, Scott, thanks for coming over and chatting with us.
Thanks for all the support.
Of course. Well, thanks to everybody at home for all your support, and I think it was really neat this year to kind of reach out to people, let them know what was going on, and see all of the encouragement that they were giving back to us, like hoping that we could get the car together and cheering us on at the race day. I know you talked to a lot of people in the pits,
yeah,
and at FanFest. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very cool to see all the support that you guys give us. That's why we're sitting here a week after and not going, hey, we're never doing that again. That was crazy.
What were we thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Instead, we're like,
well,
might just put more.
Now we get it. We understand it.
Yeah. But that's what makes us sit here a week later and think, all right, what can we do in the car? What are the things we can change? How can we make it smoother? How can we make the car faster? All of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's exciting. So, thanks to you guys at home for your support as always. And until next time, stay tuned to Flatirons Tuning. Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Flatirons Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. Once again, we'd like to let you know that your support is what makes this show possible. Be sure to check out our online store at flatirons.com for any of your aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts needs. And as always, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.